you're in the KBB industry. So what's the business model that would be right for you? Now, this is, I might take you back into the video that we did in the KBB University a couple of years ago now. And I might take you through some slides there in a moment. I might not, see how we are for time. But I think that this is really important for you to listen to, even if you're wherever you are right now. It doesn't, and I mean like in terms of where you're at in your journey, because, you know, look at Enzo. He's been with us, you know, January last year, his website went live. So just over a year, and he's already coming to us for advice on what should I do about this little showroom. So here is a example that what I'm about to tell you tonight is very prevalent for anybody, and it can become relevant very quickly. So don't sit here thinking, oh, this will never happen to me, because, well, if you think that, it fucking definitely won't. Do you understand what I mean? If you decide right now that this won't happen for you, then you've already lost. So, you know, don't have that mindset. But if you're sat there going, well, actually, I'm open-minded, I'm going to see where things go, and when opportunities arise, and we must have, you know, thinking about it now, I think in the last month, I can think of 4 academy members that have opened a premises in the last month. Yeah, I can. And that's frightening when you think about it. So I'm not saying we're going to get 4 that do it every month, but at the same time, would it surprise me? Not really. It's not something that I encourage. It's not something I discourage. Every business needs to make decisions based on its own numbers and its own ambitions. And they shouldn't be looking at each other going, oh, well, they're doing it, so I should be doing it. No. That's not the way forward in business. You focus on your own shit and stay focused on that. But, you know, listen to what I'm about to say here with an open mind and the honesty that one day one of these scenarios could unfold for you, and you should be open-minded to it. Because again, if someone said to Enzo 18 months, you know, back in time, 18 months ago, that in 18 months time you're going to be looking at a showroom, he'd be like, fuck off, mate, I'm fitting for Wix, you know, how am I ever going to get there? But he's there now, you know, and this is where it's quite scary. So when I'm going through this, please do keep an open mind. So what we're going to dive into is the 4 main KBB business models that we all start off at the first one, but we work our way to the one that's right for us. And those of you that have been around long enough know my own opinions on this, and I'll cover that a little bit in a minute. So we'll go through what they are, and we'll go through the pros and cons of each, and how to know which one is right for you, more importantly, and then how to start shifting into the next level of your business. So you've got number 1 is on the tools, a solo operator. So obviously we all start there, don't we? So what are the pros to being on the tools as a solo operator? Well, you've got full control, you've got low overheads, and you've got steady income. Yeah. The cons are you're trading time for money. You can't grow beyond your own capacity. If you have a day off or a week off, you're not earning, and you've not got any real freedom or fallback. And your typical earnings range here is probably between 30,000 and 90,000 a year, depending on the types of jobs that you're doing. But that's the sort of bracket that anyone who's not selling product, you'd expect them to be earning a minimum of 35, but anywhere up to 95 if they're maybe doing some contract work or whatnot. Do you get what I mean? So it is possible to get to that number, but that's the very top end of the bracket. Now, don't pipe in and go, well, I've earned more than that. You know, if you've got 6 teams working for you, I am not talking to you. I'm talking to one man in one van that's on the tools, okay? So if you're getting started, then that's where you'll always end up. So that's number 1, and that's where we all start. Some of us stay there forever. It's those people as well that dream of moving on but don't. Some of them don't want to, some of them want to, but won't change the mindset. Some of them want to, but won't take risks, and some of them want to, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, then you've got on the tools with a small team. So this category of people is when you're still fitting, but now you've got a couple of fitters or apprentices with you. Now the pros are you can take on more work, you can share the load, and you've got more potential profit. I say potential because it doesn't always materialize. Now the cons are that you're still on the tools, you've got more responsibility, and it's harder to take time off because you may think that having these people around you is the route to an easy life. But let me tell you, it isn't the case a lot of the time because people become dependent on your presence if you don't manage properly. Now, I see tradesmen do this all the time when they first start. They take on a few people and then they make themselves the center of the world. Like, you lot work for me, but you can't function without me. Their ego gets in the way immediately. And I see it all the time. And then you get people going, well, I've got these lads working for me, but well, why haven't you had a holiday for the last year? Why haven't you been well, I'm fucking always running around and he does this and you end up taking the shit off people because, again, it's another shift into a space that you're not prepared for. And again, how do you, it's all about organization. But anyway, that's probably a story for another day, recruiting people and managing them. But you do see this all the time. It is a lot harder to take time off. Now, the earnings for these people you would expect to be between 100,000 and sort of 262,000, or $250,000, whatever. So if you're ready to scale, but not ready to take the step back yet, if that makes sense. So that's based on the fact that you can win more jobs, you can do more stuff. You've got 2, 3, maybe 4 people working for you. You'd expect the typical earnings range to be around that. Obviously, you've got to pay their wages out of that as well, but that's the money that you should have roughly coming in. So that's number 2, on the tools with a small team. So number 3 is you've got off the tools as like a manager role. So at this point, you've stepped away from fitting and you're focusing on the quoting, the planning, and the marketing and growing the business. Now, this is where I was for a long time, and this is one of the sweet spots that I enjoyed the most, because at 2, 3 jobs a month, well, sort of flitted in between 2 and 3 on the tools with a small team and off the tools manager role. You'll sort of, the transition between those two is very, if you can do it gradually, it's better. Like, some people like to go from on the tools to with a small team to off the tools and a manager within like a year. And sometimes it happens, but you want to gain experience here. You want at least a year or 2 at each stage, if that makes sense. You want to sort of not race through these phases because each one of them brings a new challenge, and you want to know what those challenges are and get used to them before you move on to the next one. If you sort of go boom, boom, boom and grow too quickly, you weren't even qualified at stage 2 or 3 and you've tried to jump to stage 4, you will fuck that up big time. So, you need to be careful here. So again, number 3 is off the tools manager role. So the pros are you've got more time and freedom. You can focus on the business growth and you can build a sustainable business model. The cons are you'll need to trust your team because you won't be there. It is a mindset shift. You're now a business owner and not a tradesperson. And it takes time to get systems in place. And I remember vividly this part because it was fucking painful, going from Excel spreadsheets, which I thought were brilliant. And again, these are the similar sheets that you've got in the academy, what we give you for free. They're basically what I used early on when I was at this phase. So all the way up to phase 3, sort of off the tools as a manager role. For a while there, I did use like the Excel spreadsheet stuff like that. But because I was spending more time in the office and more time off-site, which again, your phone's going, but you're not there anymore. So you're sort of learning to manage from a distance, and have processes and things that you can use to manage things properly. And I know a few of you are here as well now, and we are going to be helping you get over these hurdles. But this is where a few of you are now starting to land in the academy, and the challenges are real. So this is where you need to start sort of migrating away from your Excel spreadsheets and the rudimentary shit that you started with, because you need proper systems at this point, because your time gets bogged down massively with administrative shite if you're not careful, and you need to automate your business and process as much as you can. Again, that's spending time and money on technology instead of doing everything yourself. So obviously, typical earnings there, you would again expect to be broadly quite similar to on the tools with a small team, probably. But now you are having to factor in your own time for part of the overhead. Do you get what I mean? So now you're completely off the tools. So you want to sort of take it up a little bit more of a notch. So this is where you'd want to be turning over more money, preferably, but initially you would be very similar to what I've just said in the previous section with a small team. Again, they're only brackets of finances. They don't get tied into them at all. They're not relevant. It's just a bit of a guide. So then you've got number 4, which is off the tools as a showroom owner. Now, you know, this is not something I aspire to at all. Never did. You know, all right, yes, we have a showroom now and we are opening, you know, the things like that, and we're going to be partnering with people with showrooms, but we've never been the people that sit in a showroom and sort of like wait for the walk-ins. It's a completely different thing, so don't get that twisted. But number 4 is off the tools with a showroom. So you're now in a brand with a physical location showroom. You're attracting retail customers, quoting and supplying full service packages, but you are quoting and supplying full service packages at the previous stages, but without the overheads of the showroom. And again, if you've got a little shop or something like that you can take people in, it's costing you like £1,000 a month, then a showroom is going to cost you a lot more, because bear in mind with showrooms, you've got to redo the displays every time something goes out of stock. It's a fucking pain in the ass. You know, the manufacturer that you use goes, oh, by the way, that door now isn't available in that color, and you look in your showroom and go, well, that's fucking great, because I've got a £5,000 display there with that fucking door on it. And yes, they will give you the stock to replace it, but it just buys you into a more. Do you get what I mean? So they're not for the faint-hearted. But the pros are you have real brand presence. I think you have real brand presence anyway without a showroom, but again, it is in there as a pro. Higher value jobs, I'd probably say yes, you are likely to get higher value jobs at that point. But that doesn't mean that higher value jobs aren't accessible to you before then. You'll just probably win more of them if you have got a showroom. Like I said, even if it's not a showroom, it might be a shop, something like that. You can leverage the supply margins for more profit, again, because you're tied into suppliers, usually a bit more, but you know, I wouldn't focus on that too much, because it's a bit of a bullshit point that it's there, but I wouldn't run with it personally. The cons, this is where you know, come unstuck if you're not careful, is you get bigger overheads, because now you're on the high street, because you've got a showroom, proper one, you know, the overheads are going to be through the roof. You've got more moving parts, staff, you know, stuff like that, systems to operate the place, and you know, it's just a whole different operation. It needs solid systems and leadership. So again, if this is not something you're familiar with, building your way to it can happen, but it would take a long time. And I would argue that I'm not saying you shouldn't ever try to do this. You know, a small shop. Again, I'm gonna come back to this in a sec. But it's similar to the manager model, but just with higher costs. You know, it isn't much different to the manager model. You've just got more costs going out. And I think what you want here is number 3, off the tools manager role. And the caveat I would put in there is with a small shop, not number 4, which is a proper showroom. Do you get what I mean? So I would do a hybrid of number 3 of the manager role. So I'm off the tools, but I've just got a small shop where I just take people. So Enzo's world, what he just said on his check-in earlier about should I take on this shop? Well, he jumps to stage 3 here, off the tools, manager role, but he's got the small shop. Yeah. So that's the caveat I'm putting in here. That's the bit that I'm adding in. So the key things to sort of ask yourself here, and again, I'm going to say, what do you actually want out your business in 3 to 5 years? But look, as you've seen tonight, we've got people that are doing it within 1 or 2 years, and they're already asking these questions: should I do this? Should I do that? Do you want freedom or full control? Are you ready to stop trading time for money? All these types of things. Are you willing to lead a team and step away from the tools? These are the things that you need to ask yourself. Again, what I've noticed with people recently is they've gone from, oh, I'm not sure about coming off the tools, to going, I can't fucking wait to get off the tools, because they're feeling more confident around the way that they're winning the business. So if you're going to transition, you're going to try and transition through these things, then what should you do? So here's some tips for moving through these stages. So if you're a solo to small team, then start outsourcing the small jobs. Start getting help on the small jobs and outsourcing those. Yeah, because if you're always tied up in the smallest of the jobs, you'll never move anywhere. So the smaller jobs, start outsourcing. That's a small step in the right direction. In the right direction. If you're transitioning from a small team to a manager, then you need to start documenting your systems and start delegating. Now, this is something that we're going to be helping you a lot more with in the academy, is management processes and recruitment, delegation, all that type of stuff, because a lot of you are there now, and it's time to look at that. But starting to look at your systems, how your business works and how you do things, and having it ready to get someone else to help you do it. If it's all up here in your head, you've got no chance. You've got to start documenting things, like going to the academy in the 12 steps, the customer journey tracker. That is basically documenting your processes as a business. So you've got a head start here. You just need to start looking at that more detail and going, especially you guys looking at showrooms and stuff like that, and small shops, whatever. You need to start looking at these customer journey trackers and start taking them seriously now, because you're going to get to a point where probably in the next year or two, you're going to go up another notch again. And by up another notch, you'll want to hand the management of some of this over to somebody else at some point. And if you start documenting it all now and getting these systems in place, then you're basically going to need to start doing that soon. So if you're going to transition from the manager role up to showroom, obviously you need to make sure you've got a strong supply network, which you'll have most of that with us, but making sure that you've got all your ducks in order, just technology suppliers, or everything that you need. And make sure that you are building, again, a proper presence, but make sure that you're very thoughtful here. Again, I don't want to press this showroom thing at all. I don't want to encourage you here, because I don't think it's what a lot of you need to even think about. Again, you want that sort of hybrid number 3 option, off the tools manager role, maybe with a small shop. That is the sweet spot for all of you, really. So final thoughts on this. There's no one size fits all. The right business model is the one that fits your goals, your lifestyle, and your vision for the future. But the biggest mistake is staying in the wrong model too long because it's familiar. Now, which one do you think people stay in the most? Would you say number 1, on the tools as a solo operator? Of course it is. That's where people stay, because why? Full control, low overheads, steady income. And these are the people that are the dickheads on Facebook who give people abuse because they've got nothing to lose. Do you get what I mean? And that's why again, what did I say to you earlier on about being able to work someone out within seconds? The things that people say, because when they've got nothing to lose and no height to fall from, they don't care. And it just shows. And again, this is how you can work people out very quickly, because when they've got something to lose or something to be worried about, people, it shows. Do you get what I'm saying? And these are giveaways that you can always tell these people. And that's why I always know that the wrong person for the academy and the wrong person to be with us are the ones that have the wrong attitude, let's just say, because they are demonstrating poor attitude at this level, where they're still a solo operator and they're being disrespectful. So they don't respect other people. They certainly don't respect themselves. So again, do some people get stuck on the tools with a small team? Yeah, they do. Some people go from on the tool solo operator, get a few people around them, but then can't manage them people effectively and can't get processes moving in that world to give themselves any space. So they become it just becomes a fucking burden. And that's why I always say early on, if you're looking at doing your own stuff, is get to one job a month, like, one job, a month, and start understanding, then getting your second job running alongside it. And then once you've got a couple of people around you, then you can start this transition if you want to come off the tools. Again, ideally at some point you'll want to come off the tools because you'll want to retire at some point. Now, if you're number 3 off the tools as a manager role, then that's a cash flowing business, or it should be. It shouldn't have big overheads because you haven't got big things to pay for. You've just got staff. But what I want to just take you to a slight minute is the old slides that I did quite a while ago. So just give me a sec. What I'm going to show you is just one of the slides. I'm not going to take through all of them because it's quite old now anyway. But I did this. Some of you will remember this from KBB University. But this is the so KBB University. I'm assuming you all know what that is. It's the free resources for learning before we had the academy. It's all still there. It's quite interesting, really, because when I go back and look at these videos from like 2-3 years ago, they're all still. I probably would make some slight changes now to the messaging because I've got better at what I do, but it is still very, very prevalent, all this, and still very very much on the money. So this is the slide I wanted to show you. So who should, and what I did here was I put the traits of who should and who shouldn't do these things. So on the tools, who should, well, anyone, we all start here. Who shouldn't, doesn't matter, because if you don't start there, you don't fucking start at all, do you? On the tools with a team, maybe has a small office or studio for appointments. Again, I noticed this back then because this is where I was, a few years before that. So, I knew that on the tools with a team, with a small shop, it works really well. So who should do this? Open-minded, ambitious, have a need to get off the tools and good people skills. Who shouldn't do it? Pessimists, moaners, those with no patience, poor people skills. Because let's face it, if you haven't got patience and people skills, you're not going to want to sit down and do a design session with your customer in your own place. You're not going to be the right type of person to do that. But if you're recognizing yourself in who should or who shouldn't, I mean, no one's going to sit there and go, I'm a moaning pessimist with no patience. It's going to take a lot of self-reflection for you to see that, if that's you. But, be honest with yourself, more look at, are you in the traits of the people that should, and do you recognize yourself there? If you do recognize yourself, then you should consider it. So who should go off the tools with a team? The third one down, which is where I say is the sweet spot. And again, I put on here, maybe has a small office or studio for appointments. As above, has the desire to always learn and adapt, learn new skills in marketing and technology. Who shouldn't? Pessimist, moaners, and then I've added the bit onto the end here, to be technophobes with no intention to change. And then on the showroom bit, I've just put high appetite for risk, already established, and as above. You're not going to get to the showroom level. You can't skip these levels. And I think this is what we see sometimes in the kitchen world, is we get people who don't even ever go on the tools. They certainly don't go through stage 2 and 3, and they try to open a showroom and don't understand a lot of the other things. And this is why some of them just collapse, because they're not prepared for it. And they're sometimes the types of people that shouldn't be doing it to start with. The pessimists, the moaners, they don't want to learn about technology. They don't want to change. So therefore, why the fucking hell are you opening the kitchen showroom? And you do see it. It's ridiculous, but people do it. But again, if you want to sort of climb, then you start on the tools. You get a little team around you. Then you go off the tools with a team, maybe with a small office or studio. And then if you do want to jump into showroom later on, I highly doubt you ever would, to be honest, because what you'll find is that the money that you'll make between this and this, in terms of, off the tools with a team and a showroom, if you've got a good brand online and you're bringing in work and you're off the tools with a team, You're not going to go and want to spend a load of your profit on opening a showroom if you don't need to. You ain't going to do it. So it's just something to be mindful of there. But it's interesting, isn't it? It really is interesting, all that. I think it's something to go back into the university and probably have a look at, or come back to this and look at it in more detail. Because again, technophobes with no intention to change. I mean, there are a couple in the university, in the academy, that display poor attitudes to learning about technology. And like come to us and go, well, why do we do this? Well, hang on a minute, mate. This isn't about, we didn't make the rules. I've give you the rule book and the playbook, but I didn't make the rules. There's a set of rules out there in the world that do exist, and I didn't make them. But what I have given you is a playbook to be able to go and win. Yeah. Now, don't fucking whinge at me if technology, you won't sit with your laptop and learn it. That's not my problem. But the further and further we go into this digital age, and the more technology is becoming, I don't even think it's becoming that more advanced, to be honest. I think that it's getting easier because AI is doing it now. Whereas you look at Google AdWords and Facebook AdWords a few years ago, it was really difficult. I would say it's getting easier now because the AI does a lot of it for you. Look at ChatGPT. The things that you can do in seconds now is just ridiculous. The barriers, people think that technology, although it's getting more advanced, that it's getting difficult. It's not. It's getting that advanced. It's getting easier. So it's actually, you look at graphic design and things like that, you look at all these things in, think years ago they weren't accessible, but technology is making things accessible to people that aren't that good on computers. So the excuses are actually getting less as time goes on, because in 2 or 3 clicks now you can do things that, you can create images and videos and full slide decks in minutes, whereas it would have took you hours to do that not so long ago. Do you get what I mean? So it's all worth thinking about, all this stuff. It really is. Technology is moving very quickly, and if you've got the right attitude to these things, and you'll learn processes, and you'll get to grips with technology, then you can easily box off one of these business models, especially getting off the tools. I would say if I was doing this again now, I'd be very confident. If I had to start again tomorrow, I'd be very confident, because the stuff that we give you in the academy on using ChatGPT and AI to do a lot of the stuff for you, it really, really, really does make life easy. And I'm stopping to think it, because I'm thinking, well, what excuse do people really have? It's just discipline, really. Discipline and mindset, which we'll cover next week at the event. So like I say, just to recap on that, you've got the 4 business models on the tools: solo operator, which is where we all start. We've got number 2, which is on the tools with a small team, which takes a little bit of a transition. But the banana skin to step on there is not managing the people around you effectively, and becoming one of the guys, and becoming their, having the tail wag the dog, basically. It's your business. 3 is off the tools as a manager role. This is the one that I think most people eventually should be aiming at. And if you can throw in a little studio in the mix there, you're done. You're done for life. Just don't get 1-star reviews, and don't fuck your business up. Don't get complacent. Don't get cocky. And I'd stop there. You will have a good life there. And some of my happiest times, I think those of you that have been to the events, were where I worked about 20, 30 hours a week, did a few surveys, did a few quotes, visited a few jobs, put out a few fires. Obviously, there's always problems. And just had a nice life, really. And then, sometimes I sit back and wonder why I didn't fucking stay there. I don't know. I just didn't. I decided just to keep going and pushing, and that's just my nature. But if you get to that point and you think, well, this is all right, I'm going to stay here for a bit, you will have a nice time. You'll have a nice life, and you won't look back. But again, they're the models that I that are out there. You know, you've got my views. We all start at one. We all start on the tools. If we want to get a team, great. If we want to then get off the tools and manage that team full time, like I say, manage it full time. But if you're doing a few surveys a week, a few quotes a week, checking in on your jobs, sending your invoices, got a bit of an admin support, you can go on holiday. You can do things that you couldn't do before. You're not tied to that business. Recruitment and management will be the key there, and processes and technology. So recruitment, management, technology and processes will be the hurdles you need to overcome. And they ain't big hurdles. They just need to be overcome, because none of it's that difficult. It's just about having the right mindset to do it. Okay. So that's my penny's worth on business models. I hope that has been helpful.